This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Alex.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex. I'm an alcoholic. I was hoping for a lot of one-year birthdays. Take a little time. This meeting needs a little energy, you know. Low key here. Let's wake up, folks. It's like the Windsor Club. If you haven't been there, oh well. Thank my friend Richie for asking me to come out here and speak with you all. I don't particularly like to speak at Alcoholics Anonymous, so that's not my favorite thing to do. I don't like doing it, but I like being asked, you know. I hate parties, but if you don't ask me, I got a major resentment. You know? So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be sober tonight. Vertical, that's good news. And fully clothed, and you can be grateful for that. Wasn't always that way. You know, out cold with the pants down. Oh, God. Had a crazy day. Driving all over L.A., which is it's not fun. I live in Northridge. I'd taken care of my sponsor. He's falling apart, and he's 88. And so I had to drive from Northridge to Hollywood, and then Richie reminded me I was speaking, and so I had to go home, shave, and put on my makeup, and get ready to talk with you all, and come all the way back over the hill. But God bless him, he gave me a great cigar and bought me dinner, so I'll be back next week. Can't afford it. It's just crazy. Taking care of John it's a lot more work than I expected. I'll back up even. My first sponsor was in San Francisco, Irwin. And Irwin used to always say, we're the only people who expect a reward for getting a gift. We're the only people in the world who expect a big reward for getting this gift. And I understood that for a long time, and I said, yeah, that's right, we don't deserve any great rewards for getting this gift of sobriety. And I actually did get a gift because I was kind of a sleazeball, which I'll tell you about later. And this guy, John, my sponsor, he trusts me with his whole life. I have power of attorney over his whole life. I got his checkbooks. And believe me, you didn't want to give me your checkbooks 25 years ago. And he trusts me with his whole life, and what a great gift. It's not fun watching this, I have to tell you. He's on a feeding tube and, oxygen. And I asked him to sponsor me. He was a year older than I am right now. And, we used to play golf and hang out. And he's a former Catholic priest from Denver. I'm a smart-mouthed Jew from Chicago. And that only works in AA, you know. And I love the guy. I just love him. He left the priesthood at 50 and ran the Mary Lynn Foundation for 20 years, the Marina B and the Royal Palm and the Burns, all those facilities, 400 beds for homeless alcoholics. And just been a man of service his whole life. And I don't know, somehow it doesn't seem just to me that he's got to go out like this with all this suffering and moving around and hospices and hospitals and broken hips and all that shit that goes on when we get older, the golden years. It's right, it's kind of breaking my heart. I'll tell you my favorite John story, because I'm a real judgmental guy, and he's not. He's just the least judgmental person I've ever met in my life. And recently I had to ask another man to sponsor me because he's on a feeding tube and he's deaf and and he's on oxygen, and I still need to talk to somebody. And this fellow that asked to sponsor me, Leo, we've all been friends for a long time. And he and John were at a meeting, and a guy was taking a cake for 9 years. And Leo's a crusty old guy, and he leaned over to John and he said, I don't know, why is that guy taking a cake? I know he drinks. And John looked at him and said, maybe he likes cake. Boy, if I could be like that, I'd pay money to be that non-judgmental and that cool about everybody else. But, most of us, we drank because of everybody else, didn't we? I drank for as long as I could. I used for as long as I could, and came into Alcoholics Anonymous and did it for 4.5 more years right here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I came in because of alcohol. I love the alcohol. I love Scotch whiskey. But I would drink anything. I drink white port and Kool-Aid in the alley. A lot of cheap vodka. Yeah, you know, Purple Death and Red Thunder and Green Weenie, you know, whatever color Kool-Aid you had pouring into the white port. Fortified wines, I love them. So I came in because of alcohol, but I love drugs, you know, I'm not going to lie. I'm a guy from the 60s. I was in college in the 60s, and I love drugs. I was a downer guy. I liked Seconal and Tuinal and Valium and Mellaril and Elavil and Haldol and Nembutal, and took an obscene amount of psychedelics and smoked a couple mountains of pot, and still recovering. And I shot heroin once for 8 years, and never changed. Never got any different. Sweat and shake, scratch, wait for the man. There he is, thank God, salivate. Copping was way better than shooting dope, I'll tell you. Half the fun, half the deal, you know. Where's Luis? Where's Luis? I'm freezing under the L, 40 below zero in Chicago, waiting for Luis. Half the time he'd burn me. Oh, well. I'm sure glad I don't do that anymore. So I drank and used as much as I could for as long as I could. Came into Alcoholics Anonymous in 1978 in San Francisco. I had been married to a woman. We got married right about the time we should have been getting apart. Shouldn't have been married, and we were always oil and water. And we got married in Chicago, where I grew up, and she grew up, and moved to San Francisco, and I knew I was home. I was already a drinker. I was a drinker in high school. I was a high school drunk. Got thrown off all the teams, and I loved to play ball. More than anything in the world, I loved to play baseball and basketball. I would stand at the kitchen sink while my mom was serving everybody dinner with a ball under my arm and do this as fast as I could and right back out to the schoolyard, you know. So I loved to play ball. And every time there was a choice between playing ball, or many coaches would say to me, you know, you smell like a brewery. You just can't do both. You know, you got to make a choice here. See you, coach. You know, it was always that way. And I loved to play ball right through junior college, where I became a little fish in a big pond. For a long time, I was a big fish in a little pond. And then the guys got bigger and stronger and faster and better. And couldn't compete. And I always felt overmatched. I think I always felt overmatched by life and by you and by everything. And, you know, booze was my outlet. As soon as I drank, I was feeling fine. I'm not one of those people who drank and got taller and handsomer. I'm already tall and handsome. And I'm one of those guys, I drank and I knew I was awkward and uncomfortable, but I just didn't give a shit when I drank, you know? It was like, I don't care, screw you. That's okay. I'm drunk. I don't care, I'll act inappropriate as much as I can. And I did for a lot of years. And, you know, when you're young, it's kind of cute, and you get away with it. As you get older, it's not so cute anymore. If I graph my alcoholism, it was fun. And by the way, my best day sober, or my worst day sober, is not better than my best day loaded. I had a lot of fun out there. A lot of fun. You graph my alcoholism, fun with trouble with fun with trouble. You know, and I was in a lot of trouble, and it had stopped working for me 4 or 5 years before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. So I drank my way through sports. I drank my way through being a teacher. I drank my way through being a small restaurant owner. And every time the choice came up, and it was very plainly laid out to me, you know, you got to change your lifestyle here. You're an alcoholic, you're a drug addict. And I said, yeah, right on. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. You got it right, you know. Why do you drink like that? Because I'm an alcoholic. And I thought it was cute. I thought it was a smart mouth, you know. I had no idea the manifestation of alcoholism, what it really means. And those choices came up for me: restaurant, teaching, school, being a proper son, being a brother. My brother and I still don't get along. He's still afraid of me. I scared the hell out of that guy. He was kind of, you know, like this most of our lives, and I was crazed, you know, with hair down the ear and motorcycles and crazy shit. And he's like, whoa, who's this guy? Anyhow, so every time a choice came up, you know, the booze and the drugs won, right? Every time. And we got married way too young, and we never really should have. And we moved to San Francisco, and I knew I was home. There's a bar in every corner in San Francisco. That's a drinking man's town. I had a hollow leg. I could drink with the best of them. I tried to drink once. We lived up on Russian Hill, our first apartment. I tried to drink from the wharf to Market Street. One drink in every bar. And I could drink. I got halfway, boom, down. Pants down, drunk, you know. And that's kind of a gay neighborhood. I was in a little bit of trouble there. So I got in a lot of trouble. I destroyed that marriage. Left it in a wreck. She was 5 months pregnant. I was an asshole. And just couldn't deal with it anymore. And the girlfriend was pregnant, and she was pregnant. And it just got ugly, you know. It just got real ugly. And I think I left her. I'm not sure. And she got a Dodge. She moved back to Chicago as fast as she could to have that baby son. And another good part of this program. She was smart enough. She didn't let me in his life till he was 4 years old. I'll be 26 years sober, August 24th this year. He's never seen me take a drink or get high, ever. I wasn't allowed into his life till he was 4, and he's just turned 30. He's never seen me loaded, and that's a great deal. We got a great relationship. And that's about when I bottomed out, you know. I wrecked my car 4 times in 5 months. Might have been 5 times in 4 months, I don't remember. That's the truth. I'm not being funny. And the last one was, I'm on Taraval Street. If you all know San Francisco, it's got train tracks and cobblestones, and it's misty, and it's out by the ocean, and I'm coming down the hill to my favorite watering hole, and the only place that let me run a tab. I was such a flake. And I was renting an apartment from the owner, so she let me run a tab. I'd left the wife, everything, you know, now I'm cool. She's gone. And I'm coming down Taraval, and 2 parked cars came out and hit me. And this little old lady was watching me, you know. She's watching me do this. And it was her car, and she came out, she had a little storefront, you know, office window there, and came, oh, you crazy, what are you doing? Oh, my God. And, you know, we can square up, you know. I was really drunk. I was squared up, and I'm taking 100 milligrams of Valium a day at this time. So I'm kind of like Daffy Duck behind the wheel. And San Francisco police were cool back in the 70s. They cut me a lot of slack. And she comes out, and I squared up. Oh, yeah, well, here's the insurance. I'm already on a assigned risk. I'm an outside salesman, living, you know, mostly in my car, driving around all over the 12 Bay Area counties, and I've been told they're very beautiful. And the wine country was part of my territory. And disappeared for weeks at a time. So I give her all the info, the license, all the 4 different insurance companies that were carrying me at the time. And okay, I guess this is pretty cool. I get my car, make a U-turn, hit 2 more parked cars on the other side of the street. And the old lady stuck right up. You crazy son of a bitch, what are you doing? And beats me, and, you know, handcuffs. And oh, jeez. One little story, you know. We've all got them, same old shit. And just one more quick story. Coming across the Bay Bridge, I'm wearing a suit and tie and driving this car all the time. Cops some bunked dope in Oakland. And shot it up in the back, you know, with the suit. And down in the back seat of this car I got, company car. And it was bunk. It wasn't any good. And I get to they used to have real toll takers, guys that put their hand out. And the dope hit me, and I puked right in his hand. Glorf! What are you doing? Now, I'm going to tell you these stories because when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, this was normal behavior to me. I thought this was all part, you know, this is part of the deal. This was normal, but I look back and I said, who was that guy? Because now I'm like my brother, you know. I'm kind of a real square guy. I don't do much. Ooh. So I was sitting in my apartment. My apartment was an exact reflection of me. I had nice clothes. I had a fancy sports car, which kept getting wrecked. And brand new. It was beautiful. Silver, black leather interior. Nice car. I kept wrecking it. And sitting in my little apartment, which was on Dolores Street, and had a view out the back, little bay window, little one-bedroom apartment. I could see the Oakland Bay Bridge and the Berkeley Hills and the lights, and I'm sure it was beautiful. I was really messed up, and I'm sitting in that apartment in my chair, which I'd cut the legs off because I got tired of falling out of it. Now we get all black and blue. It was a railroad apartment, you know, long hallway with little rooms off to the side. Boom, 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 down the hallway, you know. Black and blue everywhere. So I'm sitting in my chair, low riding, and I had big arms on. I had all my stuff, all the goodies. And at this point, I couldn't smoke pot anymore. I did, but I really shouldn't have been. It made me crazy. I hated it, but I did it. Might work. So I took like a little Hitsky and drinking whatever, knocking back the vodka, the real expensive stuff, Royal Gate vodka, and $1.49 a pint. I still remember that. It has good stuff. Never saw a potato. Yeah, and it's just another night like any other. I had on the Razor Blade music. Billie Holiday's playing. Everything's great. I'm low riding, and my body is very, very drunk, and my mind is not. And it occurred to me, this is fucked up. It's not working. I feel horrible. I'm not feeling that good old deal, and I probably hadn't felt it in a long time. It was the first time I realized it, and I've been friends with two men since the 6th grade, and we're still friends. We grew up together in Chicago. We went to grade school, high school, college, blah, blah, blah. We know each other. We still, like, 3 little old hens. We still talk to each other every week, and we're still good buddies. And the one fellow who I'd terribly abused when he came to visit me in San Francisco, I'd leave him on street corners and forget about him. And you don't know where's Alex? And he witnessed this behavior. And then when my son was born, I flew to Chicago and for the deal that the Jews do, and it's a big deal. And yeah, I know what it's called. It's called a bris. I'm not going to show you, don't worry. Oh, God. And I was real drunk then, too. And this other friend who was still living in Chicago, he saw me act this way. And at this point, I was a maintenance drinker. I had to have a half pint all the time. And I was a maintenance drinker. I drank around the clock. And he saw this and kind of just sat in the corner. Now, this guy in Chicago, his name is Barry, was the worst drunk I ever knew. His dad owned a nursing home. He had an RN license and a key to the narcotics box at the nursing home. Mrs. Schummelfarb never got her morphine sulfate or her Dilaudid. We got it all. And his cousin supplied. His cousin was the pharmacist. So Dilaudid for 7 cents a tab. We got in a lot of trouble, Barry and I. And he was the worst drunk I ever knew. He escaped from Synanon in the 60s. Came back to Chicago to be with Alex, the jock, the good guy, and comes in my room and I'm fixing. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Okay. So this other friend says, why don't you call Barry? He doesn't get high anymore. I was like, that's a lie. He gets high. So, no, he goes to this place. No one, AA was never mentioned. So, no, he goes to these meetings or something, talks to people, and he hasn't gotten high in 3 years. I said, it's impossible. Well, call him. And this guy carried the message of AA to me that first night. That was that night. It was a Saturday night, sitting in my chair, and I wasn't ready to go to a meeting, and I called on Sunday, and Mickey Mouse answered the phone. Hi, it's AA. Can I help you? And and I started going to meetings, and what I heard my friend Barry say, he never said this to this day, but what I heard him say is, if you go to AA, you'll get the heat off. And that's all I wanted. I wanted to get the heat off. I don't want to get sober. I don't care about getting sober. I drink, I use, thank you very much, leave me alone. My basic motto in life is, where's mine, poor me, screw you. That's how I live my life. And I started going to AA, and I dug it. It was cool. My first meeting, for those of you who think you got to take a newcomer to the right meeting, my first meeting was everything everyone talks about they're afraid AA might be. It was a storefront in the Mission on Guerrero Street, one of those storefronts with the window, and a couple light bulbs hanging, and 3-4 guys in trench coats, and one guy who got up and sat down and got coffee and put it back and got the donut and put it, a psychotic, a schizophrenic straight person. And, it was hanging. And the secretary's name was Rocky, and he was drunk. On my life. And I loved it. I said, this is so cool, man. This is underground. I love it. And, this is me. I'm the hippie. The Alano Club in San Francisco was in Chinatown and upstairs in an old Chinese mortuary. And they still had the cement tables out in the middle of the room. And I loved it. It was like secretive, underground. Of course, we know in the last 25 years, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's 30 years actually, because it was 1978. Alcoholics Anonymous, CA, Al-Anon, it's exploded geometrically. And thank God for that. You know, back then it was kind of really undercover. It was real underground. And the good news about that is that the program has exploded geometrically, and the recovery hasn't changed one little bit. It's real simple. It's the way I live my life. You've heard it probably hundreds of times. Clean house. I try to clean house regularly, do a written inventory, and read it to Leo. I try to trust God, and I try to work with other alcoholics. I sponsor a few guys. I'm sponsored. And it's really no more complicated than that for me. I started that journey in AA in San Francisco. I loved it. Got sober, stayed sober 6 months, went out one night because I was at a party, and there she was. And I knew if I didn't do what everybody else was doing, she was going to think I was screwed up. So I better do what everybody else was doing. And, of course, you know, the result of that, and never got the girl anyways, and ended up on the side of the road puking my guts out. Called my sponsor, Irwin, blah, blah, blah. Oh, did I slip? I'm a whiner. It's in the gene pool, you know, Polish Jews. So we whine a lot. You got to whine. You got to whine. And, you know, stayed sober another year, couldn't hack it. Stayed sober another year, couldn't hack it. And then met a nice gal and started staying sober. And we moved down to L.A., and I was staying sober. And I looked at her one night. I said, now it's like 1981, around Halloween. And I said, you know, she's young, about 10 years younger than me. I was, whatever, 35 at the time. And I said, you know, it says right here, if any one of us can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Take your hat off. I can drink. We went out here to the pier. She liked the ocean. She's a girl from Michigan. She said, oh, let's go. We went out to the pier, had a couple scotches. Nothing happened. Had a good time, went home, whatever. Then a week, I'm wet in the bed, passing out. She beat the shit out of me. I started a big fight, and she kicked my ass. She's a big girl. And part of the reason I got sober is I got tired of punching people in the fist with my nose. I had a big mouth, and I was a skinny guy, believe it or not. And not very tough. I wanted to be a tough guy. I wasn't very tough. And, you know, I was miserable, you know. The apartment's wrecked, and I'm bloody, and she's crying, and it was horrible, and oh my. So I got sober again right after Halloween and made my amends, and I'll talk a little bit about amends before all this nonsense is over, you know, working the steps a little. And she had to leave. That was January of '82, you know, just there just was that, I'll call it a crack in the relationship. It was like an abyss, you know. It's just hard to come back from all that kind of drama. And she said, I got to go, and I said, I understand, and she wanted to take the train back home to Michigan. I said, I'll put you on the train, and I'm all sober, and it's just fine. And I'm going to meetings over. I was living on the west side. Going to meetings over Roxbury. How you doing, Alex? I'm fine. I'm just fine. You know, I'm so full of shit, and I got such a big ego. I can't say the magic word in AA. And so I had the solution. 2 ludes will take the edge off. And they did. And by August of 1982, I weighed 138 pounds. I was eating 20 ludes a day. And the reason I was taking pills and not drinking, I desperately wanted to drink. But I'm going to meetings. And I'm nodding out and I'm drooling. And my pants are falling down because I weigh 138 pounds. Program of attraction. I'm going to get the chicks. Used to be a sofa at the old Roxbury meeting. I led the meeting. Some guys out there say, oh, just sit down, you're loaded. Anyway. Rarely have we seen a person fail. So I'm taking these ludes. And through, you know, the series of coincidences that happen here a lot, I ordered some furniture for my apartment. The guy who delivered it was the business partner of a very great old AA, Danny B., who's, God rest his soul, and a good friend of Don J. They kind of were, if you saw Danny, you saw Don, and over at Roxbury. And it was Danny's business partner, and came into my apartment, and I don't remember much of it, but he called Danny and said, your buddy's on the floor, he can't get up. I think he's dying. At 138 pounds, I'm almost 6'2". man, I was near death, I guess. And Danny and Don came in and shook me out and made me eat a little something and got me in the shower, and God bless him. Don also cursed me. He got my first set of golf clubs, and that's a curse. Don't do it. And I started this journey again, and I had to go over to Kelton meeting on Kelton and Santa Monica, which I'd helped start, you know, and Mr. Big Mouth. The meeting got real popular. The fire department used to come and close us down because there's too many people in the room. And it was a great meeting, and I had to raise my hand there. And before I did that, I called Irwin in San Francisco, and again whining, can't stay sober. It's hard to stay sober. And he said, how would you know? You fat little fairy. How dare you? I loved Auntie Irwin. He was great. I miss him, too. He's dead also. And I had to raise my hand at Kelton and say, you know, I finally said the magic word in Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, help. I don't know how to do this. I'm dying. Up until then, that 4.5 years, I knew it all. I could quote you chapter and verse, and I was Mr. Sharp guy and couldn't stay sober. Until I said the magic word. I said, help. I don't know how to do this. I'm dying here. Please help me. And it came in droves, sometimes too much. Like, all right, already, it's enough help. Leave me alone. And I started this journey in AA, and I met my sponsor, and I started working these steps and becoming a regular member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what really happened, there was no great bolt of lightning. God didn't come down and say, you got to get sober now. Nothing like that. You know, God, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, he's a tough son of a gun. Nothing like that happened. What happened is I wanted to be sober more than I want to be loaded. It's that simple for me. I just wanted to be sober more than I want to be loaded. And I raised my hand and I said, help me. And people did, and they still have. And I started the journey, you know, and it's been a great journey. I stayed sober for a long time now. As I said, I'll be 26 years sober in August, and I got to tell you right now, I got way more respect. This is not AA lip service for people who get 30 days because it was so hard for me to get. I get 30 days. That's the hardest 30 days you're going to get. That's way tougher than hanging out like me and becoming an old fart. You know, it's like, now you stay sober out of ego. I'll show you. I'll get 30 years. You'll not get me, you know. And 30 days is tough. A year is tough, man. I get it. I got a lot of respect for hanging in, you know. And I started the journey, and I met John, and John put me on a path after 5 years of, well, I hear all your problems, but are you meditating? John, you don't understand. It's the IRS, it's my wife, it's, you know, it's business partners, it's crazy, and it's all, oh, I heard all that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but are you meditating? I'm an atomic ping pong ball. I can't sit still. I'm like a ping pong ball. Well, and I started meditating after about 5 years, all this pain and craziness and drama and insanity in my life. Spinning. You know, I'd read the book in the morning, the little spiritual thing, and I'd be fine. And I used to work downtown L.A. and live in West Hollywood. And by the time I hit Vermont, I was like a madman. You know, I'd leave the house. Like, I'm spiritual now. And I'm at Vermont. Hey, Alvarado, I'm going to be in the office. I'm going to kill them all. If they don't kill me first. So, you know, I started this meditation thing, and I must tell you, it's the greatest gift in Alcoholics Anonymous after sobriety. I don't know how I would get through life, because my life has been, like many of us, like this. You know, you stay sober a while and shit happens. I knew Lee and Chuck real well. I look at that, and it's just, boy, I'm getting old. People are dying around me. My sponsor's dying. Lee and Chuck are gone. Danny and Don are gone. And every 5 years, I sponsor somebody, they die. So don't ask me to sponsor you. If you want to live another 5 years, Peter died, Bobby died. The guys I sponsored, one kid committed suicide, God bless him. He was a great kid, R.W. He had more sobriety than me. He stuck around when I couldn't. Still called me spons. Blew his brains out. So, you know, I'm doing this thing, and pretty soon life is getting good, and I meet a wonderful girl at that Kelton meeting, and I said, want to go out for coffee? She said, I don't do coffee, I do dinner. Oh, okay. I said, now how about moving in? She said, I'm going to move in, I get married. Oh, okay. It's a little fast forward on that, but it's kind of how it went. I got married. I started becoming very successful in business. I had a wonderful business. I had 52 employees. I was I never saw so much money. I come from immigrant people, you know. My folks are immigrants and kids that are the children of the Depression, and we had nothing growing up. And I had all this money in a house and fancy cars and country clubs and trips all over the world and jewelry. Girls get a Jewish guy. That's our job. God put us on earth to buy jewelry. That's our job. And, you know, life was great. And here's the good news. All this good stuff, I didn't have to celebrate. I never got loaded. Didn't have to drink over it. All great stuff. I love to celebrate. Didn't have to do it. And then around 15 years sober, the business was gone. I was bankrupt. The house was gone. The cars were gone. The country club was gone. My mom died. My dad died. Found out I had hepatitis C. And my wife said to me, I think I love somebody else, and her name is. I said, oh, Jesus. Now, I'm going to tell you, my first marriage, there was a lot of broken furniture, a lot of broken walls. My hands were always broken from punching the walls. Bloody mess. I never hit the woman, but I was a good wall puncher and window puncher. Broken bones, broken hearts, horrible mess. In this marriage, there was no broken bones, there was no broken furniture, there was a couple broken hearts. I learned as much from her about Alcoholics Anonymous as I learned from my sponsor. I learned as much from her about being a husband and a stand-up guy than I've learned from anyone else in Alcoholics. She's one terrific person. There's nothing I wouldn't do for her. Nothing on the face. If she called me tomorrow, I'd be there to help her out. Terrific person. We're just walking a very different path. Well, we like the same thing. We both like girls. So. Not so bad. Can't hold that against her. And that was some time ago. So now, everything's gone. Everything is gone. Nice house in West Hollywood, and I'm living in my friend James's garage, shooting interferon in my leg and taking these horse pills. I said, oh, boy, this happened kind of quick. And I didn't have to drink over that. You know, it's all gone, and it was okay, too. And John, my sponsor, the man who's so ill, you know, used to just pat me on the back and say, man, I'm so proud of you, and you're just an inspiration. You can put up with all. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't floating through all this stuff. There's many nights 3 a.m., the eyes are wide open. And where's all that money? That was so much fun. Where's all that money? I'm living in a garage. It was a nice garage. James had fixed it up nice. It really was. Swimming pool right outside, double doors. You know James.
Very well.
Jimmy H.
Yeah.
Alcoholic. And God bless him. He's a good friend. Took good care of me while I was sick. Come in the morning. British guy like this, monkey here. And wakey, wakey, tea and cakey. Great. He's just a pal, and that's what happens in Alcoholics Anonymous. New guys, new people. There's no strangers in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just only friends you haven't met yet. That's been true for me for a long time now. Only friends I haven't met yet. People will be there for you. You work these steps, you clean your house, you stay sober, you work with another alcoholic, you be of a little service. I did a lot of service work my first 15 years. I don't do as much. I'm very involved with taking care of John. It's almost a full-time job being a caretaker. And I do have business, and I have a life and a dog. And my dog is the greatest thing that's, Dr. Bob is his name, and it is. You know, I've been married twice. I've had a few girlfriends in my life. He's still the only creature that's tried to jump over an 8-foot fence just to give me a kiss. You know? No one, everyone else, take out the garbage as soon as you walk in the door. Hello, how are you? Take out the garbage. So, you know, be a little service, help out, show up, be on time. That was a big issue for me. Work these steps. I think inventory is the most important thing I do. Inventory and meditate, and that's so square and corny. But it's what keeps me sane, you know. I got a lot going on in my life like we all do. And the only way I keep my sanity without my medicine is to do my inventory and meditate. And I'm very honored that Richie asked me. I had fun. I hope you did too. Jump in with both feet. It's a great deal.